Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Republicans hit the trifecta in both expected and unexpected ways this week. Monday, the Democrats demonstrated that they can't even perform the most basic of functions in a democracy, counting votes. Tuesday, President Trump delivered a triumphant State of the Union speech and then was acquitted in the Senate impeachment trial on Wednesday. All of this as his approval ratings reached the highest point of his presidency as the Democrats completed their doomed effort to deny voters even the chance to vote for or against him in November. Joining us to sort through the Democrats' wreckage and a very good week for the president is Liberty Nation's outspoken political columnist, Joe Schaeffer. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Well, always a pleasure. So, trying to sort all of this out, I'd have to say that Joe Biden had probably the worst week of any candidate and was probably saved by the vote counting debacle because that sucked up all the media oxygen. But he looks, Joe, as far behind in New Hampshire as he finished in Iowa, where he came in a dismal fourth place. It could even be fifth by the time all the votes are counted. His demise always seemed inevitable, but is it now imminent?
I don't think it is imminent because of what happened with Iowa, with the fiasco. It's actually the worst thing for the Democrats. The best thing would be to get rid of this guy as soon as possible. Now he gets to go on. He goes on to New Hampshire, and if he's not going to win, Bernie Sanders is going to crush him there. But if he's deluded enough to keep going on, and he may win a couple primaries down the road, and then nothing becomes settled, which is the worst thing for the Democrats to happen. So for Biden, yes, this was a horrible week, but because of the chaos with Iowa, he kind of gets away with it more than he should, and that is really bad for this whole process for the Democrats.
Right, but he'll have his day of reckoning up in New Hampshire, and assuming they can count the votes, which is a pretty safe bet, I think at this point. They've been doing it for a long time, and it's run by the state rather than the Democratic Party. He's not going to last much longer if he gets a similar result in New Hampshire, is he?
I think that the dual punch of Iowa and New Hampshire would have hurt him more. He can downplay New Hampshire and he can say, hey, Iowa, we don't know what happened. And quite frankly, that is true. So I think, no, he's deluded. He's been deluded all along. He thought he could just throw his hat in the ring and claim the nomination. And that most of us knew that wasn't going to happen. So I think his delusion is going to continue beyond New Hampshire, and I think he's going to stay in this a lot longer than he would have if Iowa had forcefully rejected him, and then New Hampshire had.
Well, you and many other people have questioned, by the very nature of the delays and the incompetence and everything, and the crashing of this app, that the results in Iowa are not really legitimate. Is there reason to think that we really can't trust the numbers that have ultimately come out of Iowa?
I think there is reason for that. What I find more interesting is, again, the Democrats have put themselves in this situation where everyone should suspect that. So, I mean, we can't count on these people at all. They can't even count votes in an Iowa caucus. So what this means moving forward, I think it's a terrible look. I thought Pete Buttigieg, it was horrible for him because now he looks like, even if it's not true, he looks like he was in on something being orchestrated. That's going to hurt him moving forward. You had 5 people declaring victory after this, before they even knew the results. It really doesn't matter if they eventually succeed in giving us some real numbers that we can count on or not. No one is saying that any of this smells right moving forward. And quite frankly, that's what we've all felt about the Democrats throughout 2019. None of this has ever felt right.
Right. It's absolutely true. And yet you might say, Joe, that the Iowa caucus results with the 5 competing quasi-victory speeches is kind of perfect for the Democratic Party. It's sort of like everyone got a trophy.
Yeah, that's it goes with their whole emotional outlook on things, I guess. But makes them look so small in the eyes of the American people. And this furthers the internal divisions in this party. The Bernie bros are mad at the establishment. Buttigieg has now established himself as he wants to take up the mantle from the fallen Biden. He's all in on establishment now. I think it's a mistake on his part, but this is what he's done with this whole, I think, shadowy dealings in Iowa. So I think the big thing coming out of Iowa is the stark divisions between the progressives and they call themselves moderates. I call them establishment. I think it's going to be more fiery moving on, and that's going to be a disaster for the Democrats.
Now, as you discussed, best we can tell from the data we've been fed from Iowa is that the big winner, whether he actually finishes first or not, and the margin is still razor thin, was Mayor Pete, who's also looking strong in New Hampshire. Now, Joe, we're talking about a 37-year-old gay small-town mayor, and then a self-proclaimed socialist right there with him at the top. There's no question that Mayor Pete has punched way above his weight class, coming out of nowhere to be a factor. To even be a factor in the Democratic primary is really a remarkable thing. But all the talk after Iowa, other than the mind-bending incompetence, is that the real winner this week was Michael Bloomberg, an object in the rearview mirror that's closer than he appears. I think we can agree, Joe, that he's competent, and with an unlimited budget, he's worth like $50 billion. Is he now poised to drive home a credible case for his candidacy starting Super Tuesday, March 3rd?
Well, it's a good situation for him considering he sat out Iowa and Iowa turned into chaos. It's about his best, the way things could go. He's still not likable. That's the big thing. You're going to have all the money. You can have the incompetent rivals, which he has. He has a lot of things going for him. But at the end of the day, this is not a man who is liked by Democratic voters. He'll get a certain amount of the urbanite type vote, but progressives don't trust him for a lot of the things he did with in New York with the criminal justice reform and all that, which is a big issue for them. And anyone who doesn't care about urban issues, any Democrat voter who doesn't live in a city, there's no reason to vote for this guy. He's completely focused on his New York City worldview. I don't think it's enough to even win a Democratic primary, especially when the guy is so unlikable personally.
Well, we will soon find out whether the concept of a soulless technocrat, former Republican mayor of a huge city in the East Coast can actually get over on a party that's made it a point to demonize millionaires virtually throughout their process. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.